And now, from the world of entertainment and education, we have with us Emma Stewart. She's PhD, and she is Netflix first sustainability officer. And together with teams from across her company, she seeks to bring Netflix carbon footprint to net zero. And she also works to raise environmental awareness through film and television series and spur conversation on climate action among the hundreds of millions of members Netflix has in 190 countries. So a warm welcome to Emma Stewart. You have the floor, and you should be with us here. There you are. You have the floor for a keynote.
Wonderful, thank you, and greetings from California. Happy Earth Day, happy Earth Month, and hopefully happy Earth Year to everyone. I have the pleasure of serving as our first sustainability officer, which as a company puts us slightly behind our peers, but we like to think that we're catching up with speed and ambition. And some evidence of that is a set of public targets that very much mirror what Exponential Roadmap recommends. So what we have done operationally is committed to something we call net zero plus nature. This is a combination of a science-driven internal carbon reduction target plus the power of nature to stabilize the climate. In other words, we've put our internal emissions reductions on a third-party verified 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway. And we've also invested in external projects around the world that retain and remove carbon from the atmosphere, in particular protecting forests above and below water, some of which hopefully you then see on your Netflix service. Indeed, one of the beauties of my job is I get to remain steeped in the ecological and climate science with my left brain, while my right brain spends time supporting creatives like film writers and screenwriters. Indeed, we need both. The well-regarded conservation scientist Peter Kariva once said that science tells us what to do, while storytelling makes us want to do it. And we have found that audiences want to see sustainability on screen. In fact, our own analysis showed that in 2020 alone, 160 million households around the world chose to watch at least one story on Netflix that helped viewers better understand the issues and highlight hopeful solutions around sustainability. Viewers want to see even more. In recent research in 16 different countries, we found that 3 out of 5 people said they're very interested in seeing shows and movies that touch specifically on climate issues. Now, hopefully, some of you will have seen Don't Look Up and the massive conversation it ignited in the press and online around this satirical but cautionary tale about climate inaction. Those of us who were trained as scientists felt seen. In fact, I was blown away by how many scientists took to the airwaves to say the film was cathartic because it portrayed their frustration when they warn people of what feels like impending doom. But interestingly, climate scientists were hardly the only ones. The film broke multiple records for viewership. It became the second most watched film in Netflix history and the first comedy to hit the top 10 in over 90 countries. In fact, now you see the climate movement embracing a slogan, just look up, in various parts of the world. Global polls show that the vast majority of people consider themselves alarmed or concerned about climate change. So perhaps we shouldn't be surprised by tapping into that zeitgeist driving viewership like those we saw with Don't Look Up. A very different title really piqued the interest of policymakers around the world. Last year, in concert with Dr. Johan Rockström and Owen Gaffney, we, together with Sir David Attenborough, launched a documentary called Breaking Boundaries, which really outlines the carbon law among other planetary thresholds that we are on the cusp of surpassing. President Joe Biden chose to share the film with 40 heads of state at his Leaders Summit on Climate. 100 Nobel laureates endorsed its recommendations in May, and Sir David Attenborough used it at his G7 keynote in June. This month, I'm pleased to announce, together with President Barack Obama, we launched a series called Our Great National Parks. This actually made it to one of the top comedy shows, believe it or not, in the United States. And it explores the world's most breathtaking national parks and protected areas through the eyes of its wildest residents. together with the filmmakers and a number of NGOs, we created wildforall.org, which supports audiences who want to then protect these wild places, including making their voices heard for 30 by 30. The goal in many countries now to protect at least 30% of terrestrial habitats by the year 2030. And lastly, we've curated into an Earth collection over 170 television series, films, and specials into a collection we call One World, Infinite Wonder. And this is really intended to show the wide-ranging and wildly entertaining stories about the environment and its stability. You can learn about the science from breaking boundaries, or Bill Nye the Science Guy. You can learn how to live more sustainably from the minimalists, or Down to Earth with Zac Efron, or even Best Leftovers Ever. You can also be wildly entertained in gripping dramas like Ragnarok, Frontera Verde, and Okja, where we witness people from all corners of the Earth using their unique gifts for good. And then, of course, you have feel-good titles for the whole family, like Waffles and Mochi, or my current favorite, Captain Nova from the Nordics. We also launched as part of this a handbook for parents and for educators who can use these films and television programs as conversation starters to break the cone of silence around climate action. So I hope you can see from on screen, directly from the voices of our consumers, we are trying to serve up the stories of our day, the most epic story of our time, which is humanity's response to the climate crisis. Thank you.
Wonderful, Emma Stewart. And you are, just like We Don't Have Time, tapping into the power of the many with your work. And it's fabulous, really, to see what all the work you do at Netflix in this field. Thank you. And stay on for the panel.